Hola y bienvenidos, soy Stephanie Rivera, reportera con el Long Beach Post, y hoy en nuestra serie de live chat estoy acompañada por the organizer, see, I'm already starting with my Spanglish, organizer for the Latino Comics Expo, Ricardo Padilla, and political cartoonist, Lalo Alcarez. Thanks for joining me, both of you guys.
Hi,
Happy to be here.
So, you know, el Comic Expo está empezando esta semana, empezó el domingo. Quería empezar con usted, Ricardo, si podías decir un poquito sobre qué es el Latino Comics Expo y que está tomando lugar virtualmente esta semana, si puede empezar.
Sí, gracias, Stephanie. Un placer estar aquí, pero solo queremos anunciar que estamos muy felices de regresar a Long Beach, otro año del Latino Comics Expo. Es la reunión más grande en el país de artistas, caricaturistas, latinos, latinas en el país, y estamos muy felices de regresar este año virtualmente, pero todavía con muchos artistas excelentes y famosos como nuestro amigo Lalo Alcarez.
Yeah, y Lalo va a estar parte de un panel con usted que va a estar moderando eso. ¿Puedes hablar un poquito sobre lo que van a estar hablando sobre las caricaturas, políticos y todo eso?
Sí, vamos a platicar sobre la vida de los moneros políticos, los caricaturistas, políticos, editoriales, pero ya se me olvidó el nombre del señor.
Gonzalo Rocha.
Yeah, Gonzalo Rocha, my good friend.
Yeah.
Y vamos a platicar sobre cómo dibujar a Donald Trump y los chanclazos. Sí.
Ese es uno de tus dibujos ahí también, ¿verdad?
Sí, una abuelita le está dando un chanclazo a Donald Trump. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, but we're really honored, Stephanie, because, you know, of course, Lalo is considered the preeminent, you know, Latino political cartoonist in our country. And Gonzalo Rocha is also, he works for La Jornada in Mexico City, which is, you know, the preeminent political cartoonist in Mexico. So it's a real unique opportunity to get both perspectives and a cartoon, you know, look at both sides of the border.
Yeah. Lalo, I want to find out from you more of just how, you know, and I was doing some research, just more of like how you got started. And I thought that was a really interesting anecdote that you shared about, you know, I think as Latinos, we're often politicized without wanting to, whether we like it or not. And, you know, that's very much so being Latino in California as well. And I wanted to know what kind of started your political cartooning career in that sense.
Sure. I grew up on the border in San Diego and Tijuana, and my parents are Mexican immigrants. So I grew up going back and forth, and but you know, born in the U.S. and you know, early on, I realized that, you know, what they promise you in your school books is not really the truth, or what they tell you on TV is not really the truth. You know, you're not really an equal citizen. You're not, you know, I mean, you know, you're considered whatever your ethnicity is, and that, you know, I grew up in that kind of a era and atmosphere environment, and that was very conservative. So I naturally rebelled against that, and you know, saw how my parents were mistreated, and I just grew up angry. And a good way for me to express that was, thankfully, cartoons and editorial cartoons, political cartoons. So I had a good outlet. So that's how it all started.
And that's obviously from a political angle. Is there any folks who you saw and you looked up to that you got inspired from early on?
Yeah, I was inspired by the you know, the border culture, of course, and Mexican culture, and you know, in Mexico, the, you know, cartoons are, in Latin America also, you know, are very strong. You know, Latin America, you know, has a history of you know, not having the highest literacy rates, and so comics are very big, and you know, less so today, I think. I mean, comics are big in Mexico and Latin America, but now we all have these, and you know, this is a phone, and we all have these, and we read a lot now, and I think literacy rates are up. But you know, I was always inspired by you know, Rius, great cartoonist, who did hundreds of books, you know, that taught people about history and politics and sociology and religion, and you know, his books are famous. And you know, he just passed away a couple of years ago. But I'm, you know, proud to be affiliated with the Mexican cartoonists from Mexico. I recently appeared in El Chamuco for the first time, which is their premier satire magazine in Mexico. But growing up, I saw cartoonists like Gus Arriola here in the U.S., the first Chicano cartoonist, you know, to have a syndicated comic strip called Gordo. And you know, I was also inspired by, you know, Gary Trudeau, who I got to meet and hang out with now that I'm an old cartoonist too. And you know, the political comic strips always inspire me, and also like Bloom County by Burke Breathers, another one that I read in college. And you know, I saw that I could draw political cartoons too in a comic strip form, which is like my comic strip La Cucaracha, which you can read in the LA Times and nationally syndicated.
Yes, I was gonna say that's one of the longest running comic strips as well. How far back did you start with La Cucaracha?
In the daily version, I've been running that about 17 years. It's gonna be 20 years. I mean, it's gonna be 18 years. I think become a cartoonist to do math, but yeah, a lot of comic strips do fold after you know, a couple of years when they start out new, and you know, the classics go on and on forever. But you know, I'm hoping I can squeeze out a few more years of La Cucaracha. And in the previous version I did, which was called LA Cucaracha, that was in the LA Weekly. It was a weekly cartoon, so I did that. Also, I did that from 1992 to 2010.
I'm curious to know, you're talking about newspapers and publications that are, we're seeing them shutter too, and they're the ones that have usually carried these comic strips. I'm curious to know what where you see the future of political cartooning, and you know, where they will be held if they're not being in newspapers that are closing down. Where can they appear?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been shy about posting my stuff online, and you know, you could see it whenever I draw it. Almost, I'll put it on my Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and that's where some cartoonists are just doing Instagram comics, you know, because that's where the eyeballs are, and you figure out a way to monetize that, you know, by selling merch or whatever. You know, I've done that, selling, you know, Patreon spots or just begging for cash. That also works. And then doing, you know, illustration jobs on the side. I do that a lot. But you know, I'm lucky. I've never had really a day job. I've always been a cartoonist or artist. And now, you know, I work in television and animation. And that keeps me very busy, but I, you know, always am going to be drawing political cartoons and my comic strip, hopefully, for a while.
And then that kind of takes me to Ricardo, that I feel like platforms like the Latino Comics Expo are going to be some places to really help with that. How do you see, you know, the comic expo industry helping in that sense?
Yeah, that's the one thing we love about our expo, is that it provides yet another outlet. I mean, that's one thing that we've been very grateful that Lalo's been a participant almost, you know, back in the early days. And And a reason people love our convention is that, you know, we do attract a lot of families, a lot of small kids. And one of the best reactions is when I see families stop off at Lalo's at table and they see all these amazing images and political commentaries, and Lalo puts in a lot of humor. You know, people get emotional, people get happy. I mean, it's another outlet for artists, so that's why people, you know, love the Latino Comics Expo. And a lot of artists say that they get some of their best sales at our expo, but definitely having an artist of Lalo's level, you know, definitely makes us look better. And you know, we've always appreciated his support.
And I know, especially during this time, you're not going to be any short of ideas for any political commentary or cartooning. Do you feel like it's harder or easier in that sense to be in this kind of political climate?
Wow. That's, you know, that's the question I get asked every 5 minutes, you know. And I tell people I would trade it all if it would just stop, you know, if I didn't have so much material. I'd prefer not to have this kind of material, but, you know, I'm sure cartoonists were busy in 1930s Germany up to a point, and then suddenly they were not. It is hard because the people in power are all, they're not beyond satire, but their behavior is it's comical and so bizarre and just over the line that it's hard to satirize sometimes because you don't believe what is going on.
Exactly.
So, you know, you got to roll with it, and you know, you got to laugh rather than cry. So,
you know what? That's interesting you say cry, Lalo, because I always remember one of our first shows that we had in San Francisco.
Oh, that time I cried?
Yes. Thank you for that. No, but we had a show, and then we also had like an art show, and you know, in companion with the expo. So we had an art exhibit, and people came in, and I'll always remember a viejita, little old lady. She just stopped in front of one of Lalo's, you know, works and just started crying uncontrollably. And you know, I walked over there, tried to calm her down, and I look up, and it's I wish I had it, but it was Lalo's famous piece of the Statue of Liberty, kind of like fleeing, kind of like immigrants at the border. That famous one where the Statue of Liberty is fleeing with immigrants.
Oh, on the border sign, the
Yes.
traffic sign with the caution, you know, the running.
Yeah, and it was, you know, Lady Liberty with a whole bunch of immigrants going by, and it was an older Jewish lady, and she was crying, and she was saying how much that reminded her of her childhood, and you know, just kind of summed it up how powerful, you know, Lalo's work can be, political cartooning, and you know, just the type of people that we're able to reach with the expo. It's very powerful, but you know, beautiful in a way as well.
That reminds me that there could be, you know, something that you drew and put out there and created so long ago that could still resonate today. Is that something, do you have any in mind that you feel like it's still relevant 20, 30 years later?
You know, an old editorial cartoon I did of Migra Mouse, which was like the, you know, Mickey Mouse dressed as a Border Patrol agent, kind of still holds up, even though it was about a very specific, you know, issue, which was Proposition 187. But you know, Disney, who I've worked for, is still up to shenanigans, you know, like, and that's, you know, that's capitalism. You know, big corporations are always up to shenanigans, and the issues of immigration are not going away anytime soon. So sometimes I look at that old piece and go like, wow, I could have drawn that this week, maybe for a slightly different topic or whatever. But, you know, I mean, I've been drawing cartoons about police brutality for almost 30 years, you know, since, you know, Rodney King. And before that, I was drawing cartoons about Border Patrol brutality, beating of immigrants and police beating undocumented immigrants in San Diego back in the, you know, 80s and 90s. And some things don't change.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling. That's what I keep telling Lalo, is that he's now entering that legendary category, because it's true. A lot of his work still resonates. I mean, a lot of people still ask me about his famous piece that he did about Justice Sotomayor. A lot of the stuff, like he said, about Prop 187. You know, Lalo's really created a body of work that we just love and respect, and that's why we're really proud that he's part of the expo. That's why I'm gonna have to start introducing him as Pulitzer Prize nominated. Lalo.
I almost got that tattooed.
Ya mero, ya mero.
Wait until you win. And then, hablando sobre la inmigración y todo, estoy mirando que también estás haciendo tus caricaturas en español también. ¿Estás haciendo eso como más de bilingüe o es algo nuevo que empezaste?
Las caricaturas, o sea, las tiras cómicas de la Cucaracha, las traduzco en español y se venden a periódicos habla hispana y mis editoriales antes los hacía en español también, pero ya me dio flojera. Y por eso es mejor dibujar una imagen fuerte con pocas palabras. Así es el estilo de los caricaturistas en México y en Latinoamérica y también extranjeros que dibujan algo muy poderoso y dice todo la imagen y me gusta hacer eso para no tener que traducir algo en español.
Pero eso es una cosa que siempre nos piden en nuestros expos y pueden tener más libros en español, más historietas en español. Siempre hay una gran hambre para eso. Y no solo para padres con niños, pero para los padres ellos mismos también. So, desde los viejitos a los niños, ellos piden mucho en español también y es algo que estamos tratando de proveer al público también.
Ajá. Eso me recuerda sobre las familias. Con tu familia, cuando tú empezaste como artista, ¿aceptaron tu profesión en eso? Cuando estabas haciendo eso, ¿era algo fácil para tu familia de aceptar?
Bueno, mi familia en México son artistas, pero no tuvieron carreras de artistas. Ahora mis sobrinos, ellos sí son artistas que hasta he trabajado con uno de ellos en un libro. Pero no, a mi mamá nunca, no sé, sí entendía lo que estaba haciendo, pero no le importaba mucho. O sea, me recibí de la preparatoria y eso fue lo más importante para ella.
Pero eso es interesante también, Stephanie, porque parte del expo también tenemos paneles y diferentes profesionales que vienen a hablar con los jóvenes para decirles que esto sí puede ser una carrera. Esto sí puede encontrar un trabajo trabajando quizás como Lalo en televisión o video games o diseño gráfica, porque nosotros sabemos que los padres latinos quieren que uno a trabajar, que es estos monitos, para con estas caricaturas, cada un trabajo. So, tratamos también de educar a los padres para que apoyen a sus hijos, sus hijas a usar ese talento artístico también que sabemos en el futuro con el internet es content, se va a necesitar más content y es muy importante que los jóvenes y las nuevas generaciones latinos también se enfoquen en esa carrera también.
I work at Nickelodeon on the show The Casa Grandes, and we always do lots of outreach to Latino students. They even fly them in from Mexico. Sometimes they take a tour, whole schools. And, you have to know these jobs in animation are good jobs. And if you could draw and you're young, you have a lot of energy, it's time to consider, getting into animation because there's a boom right now. There's a big demand for content, obviously, and we need representation. And there's more shows like the Casa Grandes that are coming up with Latino characters and lots of diversity. there's a lot coming down the pipeline. I have part of the pipeline, and I'm hopefully going to have, you know, some things to talk about in the next couple of years. Yeah, I encourage all you to all the young people can draw. Think about applying to Nickelodeon, to Disney, to DreamWorks, to Sony, and other companies, and look for an internship or a training program.
It definitely sounds like they're listening now and more open to receiving that kind of feedback and type of authenticity that it has been missing. And that segues into a question that we have for you, Lalo. It's from the audience. When doing consulting work on projects such as Pixar's Coco that you worked on, and then Nickelodeon's La Casa Grandes, what is some of the things that you want to make sure to get done right and with respect to the culture?
Yeah, for me, you know, like say, actually both projects, Casa Grandes and in Coco, it was very important for me that the Latino audience in the U.S. view the projects as authentic. And, you know, to me, it's a whole lot of things. It's, you know, family, that the script makes sense, that the family relationships make sense, that the details make sense, that the Spanish is authentic, that there be Spanglish, that, you know, like in the case of Coco, it's supposed to be set in Mexico and in the land of the dead, which is under Mexico. Because it's for an English speaking audience, that the languages blend perfectly, seamlessly, or that there be moments that there's just Spanish, and then moments they're just English, and then there's the blend of Spanglish, you know, that works, because it takes you out of the show. If I watch a show and I see something inauthentic, I change the channel, you know, or go get more popcorn, you know, in the movie. So that's what works for me. And also, you know, representation matters. We need to have people from these communities that are now, you know, going to be the next new flavor again, you know, of the month. Well, we need to get those people jobs and get them in there to represent, you know, and all levels of the industry, you know, from bottom up.
And I'm curious to know, I've never really heard of what, you know, a cultural consultant until really hearing it from you, and how that is. Is that a relatively new type of job?
I guess. I mean, there's not that many, but you know, the Marcela Davison Aviles is the woman that my friend who got me into Coco, got me hired by Pixar for that job. And you know, she works for Disney doing consulting on shows, and she did worked on Elena of Avalor and things like that. There's not that many of us doing this stuff. Last year I went to a conference, the NALI Independent Producers Conference, and I met my counterpart who was working on the Steven Spielberg movie.
West Side Story?
Yeah, West Side Story. Sorry. I was like, will it please come to me by the time the thought exits my mouth. And I was like, wow, man, how you going to do that, brother? I told him, good luck. And he said, no, it's, you know, it's not easy. And yeah,
all the Puerto Ricans in my house are fired up about that. So
oh yeah, I'm not Puerto Rican, I'm fired up. But I was like, you know, I'm lighting a candle for you. This is not an easy one, you know, like, so yeah, it's not, if he and I met, that means there's not that many of us. Like there's a handful. But you know, I'd rather that instead of you know, having to fall back on consultants, I'd rather that there be culturally competent writers and directors and producers throughout. But having said that, it helps to have another pair of eyes that understands the culture, whatever, and to kind of make it quality control, you know, overall on project. it really makes a difference, especially on the Casa Grandes.
Especially since, we're not just one monolith culture. There's so many nuances to all of us. As Latinos, all three of us, we probably had different experiences too in that sense. And I feel like it gives a lot of, having a consultant on top of a culturally competent writer, producer can just add that much more depth.
Yes, because I mean, TV's, and film are collaborative projects, artworks, and you need all hands on deck, they're big mountains of work, so it helps to have as many people helping out.
Yeah. And I have to admit, Stephanie, that's one thing that we're proud of at the expo. Like I said, this is our 9th year, believe it or not. And I know, gracias. But we still remember in the beginning, people used to push back and say, why are you doing this? Why are you separating yourself? Why don't you go apply at Comic-Con International? And it's like, it's, 9 years, have passed, and we see just how important it is to get people's voices out there. Like you said, the whole wide range of Latino voices and Latina voices. So like Lalo was saying, representation is resistance, and we've been glad that we've been able to provide a window into our culture and give, opportunities and voice to a lot of different artists over the years.
Definitely. And I think what we were mentioning before we started too, where I was asking has it ever been hard to find different types of Latino artists for, whatever genres, or it really depends on, you have to know where to look on that, especially when you're creating that expo?
Well, yeah, like I always tell the story, like our first one that we did, we had 10 artists. I think maybe Lalo was one of them, and maybe a couple hundred people, walk through the Cartoon Art Museum in San Francisco. But, our last couple shows, we've had at least 80 artists from all over Latin America, Chile, Tijuana, Brownsville, Texas, the Caribbean, and over 3,000 guests came through, the last time we had it at Mola in Long Beach. So we see that there's a desire, we see that there's a hunger. Every year it gets bigger and better. So we kind of feel like we're on the right track.
And the expo has spawned so many other Latino conventions and projects and things. And I participated in the first Latino Comic-Con on the East Coast, which was like a Puerto Rican kind of Comic-Con. I forgot the name of it, but
NerdCon.
What was it?
Was it NerdCon?
Yeah, something like NerdCon in Philly. Was great. I mean, it was small, and it was so much love in that small community center. But
there's definitely a hunger. There's definitely a hunger.
Yeah, people were into it, And in Philly, they sell you like shots of liquor at the bodegas in the little corner store.
Thanks for sharing.
That's something I knew I learned. It's fascinating.
I'm gonna put that on the LCX idea board.
Okay, my last question on my part. Memes, what do you think about them? Are they a type of political cartooning, or how do you see them, both of you?
I have a strong opinion on that.
Let's hear it.
You know what? Memes are a way for the average non-drawing person to be a political cartoonist, or just a cartoonist, because a cartoon is sometimes it's just a funny picture that you create, but a lot of times it's a funny picture with a funny caption, or a picture and a caption, and it's almost the same as it's basically the same thing. Now, I don't recommend you going out and becoming a professional meme maker. I don't know how good that's gonna pan out. But.
The only thing I can say as a viejito is that I was like, meme, what guess eso de meme? But my daughter's pointed out that there's quite a bit of Latino memes going out all the time, whether it's the chancla or Latina viejitas. It's like, I don't know, there's a lot of Latino memes out there.
How about the Latinos for Trump with Selena and the lady that shot Selena?
Yep. I saw that one. Funny.
That is like, I've drawn many cartoons that have gone viral, whatever, that I posted that meme and it was like my computer melted.
It's good that they won't be original though, like your own creations. You'll never be able to replace that, but they are funny.
Yeah, that's right. It's just being clever and funny. There's a lot of really funny. Some of my favorite memes are about what's this, General Sherman and the Confederate War burning down the South. Like, who thought of this? Like, and it's a whole thing, like just humiliating the Confederacy. It's just the internet, like they say, remains undefeated.
True. Okay, well, Lalo, I want. Can you tell the audience where they can meet, where they can find you, where they can find your work right now?
Well, I am. You can find me at my house. Duh. No. And you can find me stuck to this desk. And I am at gocomics.com/Lalo Alcarez or /La Cucaracha. You can see, you can get a free cartoon sent to you every day or every time I put out an editorial cartoon. Get it in your inbox. That's our syndicate website. Shout out to my syndicate, Andrews McNeil Syndication. And also you can catch me on pocho.com. And then way too much on all social media outlets, Instagram, Twitter a lot, and also Facebook.
Perfect. And then Ricardo, if you can kind of share some details about the panel for tonight, and then just more about the expo this week.
Well, tonight we do have our LGBTQ panel that we're really excited about to provide more voices in our Latino Comics Expo community. I think that goes on at 7 p.m. tonight. Really excited about our political cartooning one tomorrow with Lalo and Gonzalo Rocha. You know, we don't want to get too intellectual, but it's going to be really fascinating to talk about, you know, the political cartooning in Mexico and here in the United States. You know, they both, you know, Lalo does get a lot of, you know, threatening letters, and you can imagine in Mexico too, you know, being a political cartoonist is not risk-free as well. So it'll be an interesting conversation between the two, but please check us out at latinocomicsexpo.com, at mola.com as well, because we've got, you know, panels and discussions going on all week until we get to Saturday, where, you know, Jaime Hernandez of Love and Rockets will finish off this amazing week.
Awesome. Yes, I'm thinking it's Wednesday already, but yes, the panel of political cartooning is tomorrow, Wednesday tomorrow at 7 p.m. Yes, but and the website again, can you give us the website for the expo?
Yes, latinocomicsexpo.com. But like I said, it's also on mola.com as well, and also Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And we appreciate everybody's support, from Mola to all the sponsors to all the artists like Lalo that I really can't say enough about. You know, he's really been a great example in our community about somebody who keeps, you know, achieving, you know, success and reaching different levels, but he still comes back into the community and supports us. So I really have to be thankful to Lalo for all the years of his support. Gracias, hermano.
The honor is mine.
Well, and thank you both of you guys for joining us, Ricardo and Lalo. I appreciate it. Stay tuned for our next live chat tomorrow and for the panel for the rest of the week. Thank you.
Thank you for having us on.